Hey everybody, it's Monday, so you know what that means. It's content chat time. And today we're going to be talking about something that's been on my mind a lot because I've been working creating some long form content all about personalization. And today we're going to be talking about email with Jessica Best. And so personalization is definitely going to come up in our conversation today. So stay tuned for that. But before we kind of dive into all the questions I've prepared, Jess, would you mind telling everybody who you are and what you do and why you love email marketing?
I think my husband even knows that email marketing was my first love in life. I'm Jessica Best. I am a email marketing dweeb, have been for about 15 years. And I started at an agency and email platform called Influence, based here in Kansas City, and then spent 7 years with big brands like Dairy Queen and Planet Fitness and Winnebago for the last 7 years with an agency called Barkley. And as of January, I went out on my own. I thought it'd be fun to give it a try and to create content and relationships out on my own. So I do email marketing and CRM strategy, anything around gathering data, using data, measuring your return on investment, using data, all of that sort of my bailiwick, and I've been having a blast with it. So email marketing, as you can tell, is right up my lane because I like measurable, trackable, personalizable things. So this is my jam.
I love it.
Yeah.
So for folks who are watching live or for watching the archive, I always like to start off by doing some level setting to make sure we're all on the same page. So if you could kind of give us an overview of, what are the kinds of emails, the different kind of typical buckets that email marketing falls into for brands. How does it kind of fit into the comprehensive content strategy, or how should it? Because of course we all know that we also sometimes get very random emails that we wonder, why on earth did we get this, and what does this have to do with the brand message?
100%. And by the way, I haven't had this reaction in years because I feel like I only hang out with smart marketers now. But every once in a while, 10 years ago, people would be like, oh, you're an email marketer?
Oh, you send spam?
Like, you're the one who sends me the spam. And I'm like, no, I hate those people. I'm like you. I hate those. I only want to send what people have signed up for. Permission-based marketing, that's my flag, right? But I have to be honest, I feel like email has had a good couple of years. Like, we came out of the pandemic looking pretty good, if you don't mind my saying so.
Yeah.
10 years ago, we kept getting articles like email, everything died. Do you remember this? Everything was
Yes.
email's dying. Email is dead. Long live Twitter, TikTok.
Yeah, social media is dead.
Now social media is also dead. Whatever. It's all dead. It was never dying, right? It's all a mix. It's all part of the channel mix. And I think one of the things that we realized during a pandemic was this is something that steadily makes money for brands. And then when you don't leave your house and you don't have traditional media in the same way, suddenly it was one of the only ways we could trackably make money for our brands.
Yeah.
Digital was the only front, and certainly social media had let's just say that email had a better couple of years than social media has had from a trustworthiness perspective and a data perspective and some of these other things. And so I think that email we were kind of the popular kids at the table for a while. Paid media started to lose, especially paid social, started to lose some of their targeting tools. And so there's been this real movement in marketing to start to partner more with email marketing and what that first party database of email address identifiers can really do for you. So what role does it play? Well, it's one-to-one, right? I can send a different email to everybody on my list, which I love. I can measure the results by hitting refresh. I can actually see people opening my email in real time.
I do that too.
100% accurate, still do that. And I have been doing this for a really long time and I still love that refresh. But it also helps power and identify some of our other channels. So paid media can use existing first-party email lists, not only to target those same people, but to target people who look like those people. And all of that's above water, right? As opposed to, hey, Facebook, sell me the list of people who like poodles. Facebook is really not sharing third-party data anymore. You're not able to plug that stuff in anymore. And so we became really valuable across the teams. We still need those teams too. Email marketing is not really an acquisition channel. We can be a conversion channel, but we're usually not a way to first eyeball somebody. And we'll talk probably more about that today. But the different types of email, you kind of ask, like, what are the level set? what does email marketing mean? I think it used to mean newsletters a lot more than it does now. B2C, we see a lot more product or value focus in email, especially as, frankly, frequency's gone up in email marketing quite a bit.
Oh, yes.
Also, the idea of automation, which I think is this really cool ability that maybe not all of the channels have, of I'm going to send you something when it's the right moment for you. I'm going to send you, you raise your hand and you're a lead. That one's easy, right? Okay, I'll send you. You've been in a buying relationship with my company for a year and you stopped opening my emails. That deserves some automation, right?
Yeah.
So not just from me to you, but also kind of listening to signals and having a two-way relationship through email. That's really the role that automated email plays. And that's one of my favorite areas. And then of course there's transactional email, which I only bring up because the lines between what, like a receipt that you get after you order something and the space that they reserve in that receipt for what else they could possibly sell you, the lines are getting a little bit blurred between transactional email and what's marketing email. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as we adhere to sort of the expectations of this is mostly a receipt. So make sure I get the information I need and I don't feel like you abused that space in my inbox.
Definitely. And I kind of want to go back to one thing that I heard you say that I think is so critical and is kind of one of the things that people seem to forget sometimes about email marketing. And that is that it is one-to-one. It is personal. It is finally, Peppers and Rogers. I saw them speak at a conference in 2000 about one-to-one marketing, and that became everybody's goal. And yet, what do we see people still doing? We see so many marketers sending something that says, "Hi, Erica," and they're like, "Oh yeah, we personalize our emails. It says, 'Hi, Erica.'" Right. But the whole email is exactly the same email that everyone else in my segment is getting. And I'm like, I don't fit in any segment. I mean, I know that. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a dog and cat person. I have an allergy. I play video games. What segment does that? Does somebody have an Erica segment? So I feel like that's one of the things that is so sad, in that, marketers are just kind of not doing, is they're not thinking about those meaningful levers that they can be using to make every email give you that opportunity to delight somebody and make them go, "I love this brand," and to share that email or go and, browse the site.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a couple of important things in what you said, one of which is the audience of one. We really could do that in email marketing. Now, I'm a big proponent of make sure that you get a return on your effort. So it's not just a return on investment, but if I had to make a million versions of my newsletter in order for the articles to be super relevant to everybody on the newsletter list, it wouldn't pay me back, even if I had 8 versions of the newsletter. So there's some value in segmentation, finding the why. So you have lots of different things that are true about you personally, which I can speak to in personalization. I'm going to come back to that, but I can also learn your why. How often do you buy, maybe it's shampoo, maybe it's an RV. Let's go with an RV. I know how often you're likely to buy your RV, or I know why you buy your RV because of how you shopped for it or what model you have or other things that I've done that I've got data on. So I can group you by what you own or why you bought it. And that segmentation can be really meaningful, even if you only have to make 4 or 5 versions of it. Camper vans versus the big A-class, Taylor Swift tour bus sized RVs. So you do have some distinction in segmentation, but then the flip side of that coin is one-to-one. And yes, first name is technically personalization. In fact, first name still works better than almost everything I've tested. It's just not the only tool we have, right? First name is a cheat. If you say the word Jessica, if you say anything that sounds like the word Jessica, I'm going to pay attention. Yep. We're so programmed to listen for our own names. And now, by the way, I do the same thing if somebody uses CRM in a sentence. Within a mile of my ears, if somebody is talking about CRM, I will hear it.
Yeah.
But I think that personalization can be a misnomer because some brands say, "Hey, Jessica, here's what we customized just for you." And it's the same for everybody.
Yeah.
A little bit of a cheat to say, "Hey, Jessica, if you're not going to carry it through." Now, you could go full Pinterest model and here are the pins we've curated for you. They really mean it. Those 11 things in my inbox and in my email are going to be the 11 things I'm most likely to click on and pin. Yeah. that's the level of personalization that under no circumstances would we do that manually by versioning. It's all dynamic. It's all automated. This is that area that I think, everyone's talking about AI and what data can do. This is what data has done for the email industry for years.
Yeah.
I can make everyone their own version, because I'm actually just substituting in dynamic content. This image changes out for Jessica based on what she's browsed.
Exactly.
So that's the stuff and frankly, that's what works. Isn't that what you'd rather get? And Erica's one list of recommendations, right? I think that's the fun part.
To talk about that real specifically, I buy a lot of things from King Arthur Flour, but the emails that I get from them frequently have things I can't eat because I'm allergic to wheat, and it makes me mad. I don't buy anything with wheat from them, so they know that from my buying history, and I'd happily tell them if they, gave me the opportunity to give them that feedback through a checkbox in a profile or something. I'd happily do it, but they don't, and so then they send me emails that say, "Hi, Erica," and then it's like, "Check out our new, glutinous cinnamon roll mix," and I'm like, "I hate you." I mean, that really makes me mad.
Yeah, I have to unsubscribe from you because you're just taunting me right now.
Exactly.
But you just had the two fixes, right? I think email marketers sometimes are overwhelmed by how much we could do, and it feels like it's really hard to do. You just said 2 ways it's really easy. One, check my buying history. If you have somebody buying gluten-free flour, not always, usually that person can only eat gluten-free flour. Yep. So create a segment for that, or just ask. Your point would be, I will literally tell you, I want to be on your gluten-free list. And all you have to do is send me only the 25% of recipes or whatever that you send out that are gluten-free or gluten-friendly.
Exactly. And that means that you can probably sell me a lot more specialty bakeware that you also sell, because I make everything from scratch so I can eat it.
Well, I mean, absolutely, right? You could understand the buying patterns of, if you dug into that data. Here I go nerdy again. But if you dug into that data, what do people who buy gluten-free flour typically buy more often than everybody else? Or what is the next most likely product? Well, they're buying all of the bakeware. Ding. Your marketing department would love you if you brought that to them. Not just in email marketing. They want you to tell them this for all of the marketing that they're doing. And it's all that first party CRM data. You have to be looking at that. And it doesn't
100%.
take, you and I could look right now. We could export right now and just sort in Excel. It doesn't have to be hard. I think that's where, I don't have a data scientist.
You don't need one.
No, let me show you subtotals and pivot tables in Excel. I got you, boo. We literally just sort the Excel document and see what the next best or next most product bought is.
Exactly. So before we move on, are there any other kind of big typical things that we didn't cover that you think brands are frequently getting wrong with their email marketing?
So I think everybody does the best they can with the resources they have. And those who are following along on the chat today probably know that they don't know everything. So honestly, it's silly, but one of the things that I feel like we still say, "I would never," or "I would think that," and that one kills me. I had a CEO client just flat out tell me, he's like, "Well, we have to buy email lists." We're coming back to that. Don't listen to that as a suggestion. Because we have to buy email lists because we know exactly who our audience is. And I would never, who's going to sign up for newsletters? I would never do that. And I was like,
they're not the target audience. Thanks.
Thankfully, statistically, you are the outlier. And we do see that people will sign up when the content is valuable to them. And you have a fantastic content marketing department that you pay money for. So hang in there with me with this idea of how we're going to grow an audience instead of go buy an audience, because especially in 2023, buying an audience is done now. We really can't get away with that. We've got 4 states that have made it illegal, all of the EU, all of Canada. It's not the user's expectation. It's not your recipient's expectation. So he just was so stuck on but nobody will sign up for that. And I was like, I have had a job for 20 years because you are incorrect. I'm sure that we can make this happen. But he couldn't see it. He couldn't identify with it. And I think that we as marketers, that's a really extreme example, but I think that we as marketers sometimes go, obviously the answer is this. And we need to make sure to sort of check ourselves and come back to the data a little bit, make sure that if we're representative of our audience, if I am the buyer for RVs and I'm the only persona that we have. Like if the audience is Jessica Party of One, then sure, we can go with my gut all day long. But otherwise we probably need to think about what that data is telling us. And if you don't know, then test it. Just don't guess, right? Like if you're guessing, set it up as a test. How do we make this an actionable finding so that next time we're pretty sure we got the right answer, whether that's copy or list growth tactics or anything like that. So
totally. So one of the things I've been noticing quite a bit lately is my email inbox has a lot more video in it and a lot more even like animated GIFs and things. Like people are trying harder. They're not just sending text-based emails with, a huge ugly banner. I'm getting better kind of content. So I was hoping you could share a little bit about, why it is that marketers are starting to put some of that stuff in. Because I feel like before everyone was concerned that, oh, it's going to get sent to spam if I have a video embedded in this email, or no one will click on it. Like there are all these people who are so against video and email, but now I'm seeing a lot more of it. And when it's a really nicely targeted email, I will actually watch it if it's short.
Yeah. So are you getting embedded video or are you still getting the still plus the link out?
I'm getting the fake embedded video,
So that would be my one thing is unless you know for sure that your entire audience uses Apple Mail, which most people can't say. Like if your target audience is creatives at advertising agencies, do I have a deal for you? But the rest of us have to play by a different set of rules, which is that we're using video and email, but that we're kind of faking it, right? Like we're doing the still shot with the play button over it, and then a really good line of copy and a button that says watch video.
Yep.
Two components to that. One, we're making sure that there's a why click in there. Like, what am I going to get if I click through? And two, we got to label those videos with what they're going to see. And a lot of that stems around how long it's going to be. Again, I have to I'm like picking on Winnebago, but I love these examples because they were so creatively well done. And they have a video library like nobody has ever seen before, like 30-minute long tours of the new model, right?
Wow.
But if you click on it and you don't know that it's 30 minutes, you have a different reaction. You know what I'm saying? So we started labeling the length of the videos right on the still so that people could see how and then you can still choose. Like, I want to see the first 60 seconds and I'll save the rest for later. We found that people would literally finish the video as long as they knew how long they were in for.
That's amazing. So, that makes sense because you know what you're getting into.
100%, or you save it for later when you can spend the time with it. We mixed up 30-minute videos with 2-minute videos with, and all of them had good labels and good calls to action and stuff. But you're right, there's more of it than ever before. And I think some of that was, we were a little bit nervous that images in general, especially high resolution images, were going to get us stuck in. This is the old times, right? Like you and I have been in this long enough that this is like, it used to be that we had to worry about some of this file size stuff because we were going to get stuck in spam filters just by having large file sizes. We're seeing that go away a little bit. I will warn you that not everyone's connection is as good as what you are currently experiencing on your daytime work computer. Like if somebody gets your email on their phone and they're on a data package, that image just maxed out their data.
And then they don't like you.
And they may just have images turned off, right? So like, I can't afford all of these email marketers blowing up my inbox. So, but what we learned, this is actually something we learned from social media, I feel like, is where email has all of these benefits that social media maybe would be jealous of. Social media taught us that, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 10,000. I mean, getting that still where somebody's in the middle of explaining something or smiling or a laugh. We had this nonprofit here in Kansas City that funds our children's hospital, and Big Slick is what it's called. And it brings a lot of Kansas City's like television and movie celebrities to Kansas City for one night. And they stand on stage and act the fool and raise a bunch of money for our children's hospital. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And they get on Good Morning America at one point, and the still from this video is all 5 of them laughing at something that one of them said. I've never seen a more compelling image in my life.
Like, no, you have that experience.
100%. So it was just a really good still with a good play button and a good reason to click. These are the types of things that we're learning people want. I think consumers have changed whether they will watch a video or not. I mean, think about, again, we've been doing this for a while. It used to be newsletters with no images. And like we had like a link table at the top of our emails for how many articles we were going to send in the email. We've just changed to be a lot more visual as an audience as well, because of what we've learned from social media. So tread wisely, make sure that you're using videos that fit and that you are doing the fake version of a video insert, which is that still with the play button over it. But that's one of the things that we can show consistently lifts response rates in email, not just good imagery, but specifically good video imagery, good video content.
Totally, especially if you're selling something that people are not going to necessarily intrinsically know what the ease of use or the impact is. Being able to tease it with that promo still is going to make them click through because they want to see how they can have that amazing result themselves.
Oh, absolutely. And you'd mentioned GIFs too. That's another fun use of GIFs is that silent movie feature. Like, try not to make your GIFs 15 megabytes, kids. Like, keep them under a megabyte still, 600 KB if you can do it. But if you can get some sort of an almost 3-slide or 3-second GIF, LinkedIn has this example from years ago that I still use in presentations because it was so smart. They rolled out a new version of their app and they actually thumbed through, like they showed you the new functionality in the app as a silent, as a GIF in the.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, super smart, right? Like, click here to see the whole demo, but it was really neat to be able to see in about 3 seconds everything I needed to know about the new feature.
That's awesome. And we have a couple of questions, and I want to take this one from Tony. Tony now. Hi, now Tony. I'd like to take it from Tony. Sorry, Tony. Couldn't help myself. I'm just a little silly. But should we put the video link on the clickable image with the play button or list it in the email copy?
I put it on the actual image. So the still that has the video on it, there's kind of a slick way to put it, like right where you would normally see the play bar, so that it feels like it's part of the image. You can put it in the copy too if you feel like you don't want to try and make you're also worried about if it's like half size on your mobile device. You don't want the text to be so small that you can't read how long it's supposed to be. But I have been putting it in the image. I think it fits really nicely in that layout, and it's kind of expected that it would go there.
That totally makes sense. And we actually got a question from an anonymous LinkedIn user asking something that really leads into where we're going with this conversation. So they want to know, does marketing research matter these days when we're talking about email marketing?
So yes, and thanks for the question, Tony. And thanks for the question, LinkedIn user. So yes, research always matters. Here's the thing that I've run into, right? I've worked on Winnebago and I've worked on Tannin Wine Bar and Kitchen down the street from my house. Marketing research feels expensive, I think, to some sizes of business. And so there's always room to understand your consumer better. And coming from 7 years at an agency, I wouldn't trade that consumer research for the world. Like, I need to understand the Erica segment of ones of the world. I have to have that. But the truth is that not all of us have a research partner or the ability to do surveys on our own. And so thinking about ways that we can bring that into email marketing, because we have a user database, like we have email subscribers, it's sort of a captive audience. Can we either send them a survey and ask them pieces of like things that we really want them to tell us their feelings on? Or can we listen through behavioral actions? And you kind of alluded to this earlier, right? I will tell you, like, through my clicks, or explicitly, if you ask me for a checkbox, I will tell you what my preferences are. And I think that using the data that we have, the behavioral data that we have as email marketers, can be a stand-in for research if we really, truly do not have the time or budget to do a full curated survey to the consumer audience. We have a first-party database that we can ask some of those same questions to, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. Oh, I'm a market consultant. I love that. Creating the right messages for the right audience across media platforms, including social. That is actually super good to know, because that's the piece that I would be the most attached to, right? If you have the ability to market test your content or your copy, sometimes images, but I love the idea of being able to sort of market test copy, then I would absolutely say go for it. I think, again, the stand-in version, if you have to do it, is A/B split testing your copy, remembering that you only test one thing at a time, right? So you're a little bit hindered by how much you can do, how fast. And you want to make sure that you can roll out applicable results is the best way that I can think to say this. Meaning, if you test copy A versus copy B to 50% and 50% of your list, you just learned that copy B won but you probably can't use that exact copy again. So like, what did you learn? So setting up your tests in a way that mimic the idea of a market researcher. How do I find the mechanism that works best, or the messaging that works best for my audience? Or of course, you do research and you figure out what resonates with somebody before you go to market with it.
Definitely. So now that you have all of, either you have your personas, you have your understanding of all that great first party data that you have, how do you put all of that to work into creating meaningful personalization that will actually help you reach all of your marketing goals? So not just hi Erica, because even though that'll give you a little bit of lift, you can do so much more. But where do you start, and what should marketers really be focused on?
Yeah, so that, again, if you have the time and the ability, do market research first, figure out what things are important to them. Otherwise, use your behavioral data. You'll figure out pretty quickly what matters. Typically, I talk about data-driven marketing across 4 axes. One is going to be timing-based. I am sending this to you at the moment you're likely to need it. Think of shampoo. I run out every 30 days. You send me a reminder at 28 days. That's also personalization. It's targeting of one, yep. Right? So timing can be one of the things. And then the second one is content. And I think, again, I go back to the Winnebago example. One of my favorite examples of this is you are in a camper van style RV now, and you're on our website shopping for camper vans. What should I send you? Does it feel like rocket science when I ask the question? Because I feel like we sat in meetings where we had these like deep conversations about understanding the consumers. And it turns out that actually we used our historical data. If you owned a camper van before, what did you buy next? A camper van. And how long did you wait between repurchasing? 18 months, 2 years. Whereas if you own the big Class A the big Class A tour bus style RVs, those folks hold on to them for 5 to 7 years, and they are as likely to buy the Class C, the sort of traditional Winnebago over the cab shape, as they are another Class A. They might trade down as often as they trade in. So if we use our historical data, then again, we're still not guessing, but those types of personalization, you have a Travato, we're going to sell you a View. Those types of personalization are going to be, especially what to buy and when to buy it, are going to be the most powerful. The other 2 areas that I would say are important for data-driven marketing, and one of them is actually the one I just gave, which is analysis. Data-driven marketing also means using your database to learn about sometimes segments and sometimes individuals. In general, what is the next best product fit for somebody who has a fill in the blank? That's all. Guys, this is what AI does. Like, everyone's so impressed with AI and look, it guessed the exact right thing. No, this is just data. We've been doing this for years. Exactly. AI helped us do it fast, which I love. But we're just tracking that trend. We're understanding what that correlation is and then extrapolating that out to make marketing and messaging decisions. The fourth piece of that is attribution. Think about personalization's impact on the other side. Let's say Erica gets a nurture series from Winnebago. And then within 30 days, she buys that vehicle that I was nurturing her to buy. Do we think that email gets like a little bit, not all the credit, but a little bit of the credit for closing that deal? Heck,
better.
I guess if you bought a different brand or if you bought a different model than what I was nurturing you, then you were shopping, but you ultimately ended up buying something else. I don't get to take as much credit for that. But when you buy the thing that I was trying to nurture you to buy, I think email gets some credit for that. And we found that in order to do that matchback, we also needed that first party database, because we're looking at the email address on the registration form and the date within 30 days of being nurtured to that same email address. So not personalization in the way that I've personalized your email. We did that already. But that I am actually tracking back your individual sales results to the person, which I think is just super freaking cool. So.
And I feel like that also gives you a unique opportunity to do some of the kind of like partner marketing and partner emails that are smarter. Because so frequently when we get one of those like partner emails, it is a generic email. They have one email and they send it out to everybody as a message from our partner. But, going back to the same thing, okay, you sold me the Winnebago. Well, I'm going to need, let's say like melamine, other non-breakable fancy plates, right? For my new Winnebago. I'm going to need an extra set of sheets. Like all of these different brands that share your brand values and share some overlapping audiences, you can be working with them to send highly personalized, targeted emails to your customers. So that way you can do some of that kind of co-marketing together and provide extra value, and people will be happy about it instead of just getting a message from our partners because you have their email address. You can have that context around it.
I love that idea. Like Winnebago, I hope you're listening. That was a great idea. But you're right. I mean, we think about what we would use from a data perspective for our own audiences. And then when we send partner emails, it's like we forgot that they have first party data. Like buy the segment, I go back to the poodles. I can't buy a list of people who own poodles anymore. Well, kind of like, can you find somebody who only sells to poodle owners and you use that as contextual messaging brief, as a brief for what you're going to send to them? Or, even when you're spending with big publishers, they've got a lot of data on their subscribers. Ask them for the segment that's most relevant to you, or ask them for the 2 segments or 3 segments that are most relevant, and sell different products to those segments.
Exactly. So smart.
I love that. Yeah.
So, all right, you've got all of you figured out all the different levers you can, pull for having really meaningful, authentic personalization. But how do you actually then have the right call to action to have them do whatever it is to actually engage with that content? Because it breaks my heart whenever I receive emails that say, click here. And I still receive every day several that say, click here. And it breaks my heart.
I know. Okay, so this is a perfect example of how marketers are not our own target audience. Are you ready for the worst news of all time? Click here worked more than everything we tested against it for 6 years. It doesn't anymore. But like, I literally, I come into this big Fortune 500 account when I worked at Barkley, and I was like, best practices would say that we should not say click here, give them a value on the button. And I mean, my client was so quick to say, we've been testing for 2 years. Nothing works better than click here. If you can test better than click here, we'll change it to whatever you want. And I was so rightfully put in my place because, first of all, best practices don't mean anything if they don't actually lift results. It was at the time, I think also that's what they've been using for their buttons. And so there's something to the idea that you should test more than once or let it run more than once. But no, it wasn't until a couple of years ago that actual get $5 off or those types of value-based CTAs started outperforming learn more, buy now. The clarity of those buttons is just really hard to beat. So make sure you're testing it. However, I will tell you that my biggest tier that I get when I get in my inbox is just test your email in multiple devices and make sure that the button copy fits inside the button.
Yes, because especially if people would otherwise have to be wearing glasses, they might have big text. So and then they might not be able to see it.
Like nobody needs that. Like I know you're trying to be very clever marketer, but you need A, clarity, B, brevity, and C, the one thing that I've learned, test and test and test again. The one thing that I've learned is if you have $1 off, not always percent, but if you have $1 off offer, put it right on the button because it's where your eye goes when you first go to the email. It doesn't work with every offer, but $1 off, get $1 off will outperform most of its competitors. So if you have something like
that just makes sense. I love that.
Yeah.
And I will now try to temper is click here really going to work with your audience? Because of course it also depends if you have a less tech savvy audience or an older audience, they might need the click here language to know that that's what they're supposed to do. Yeah. Whereas if you have an audience that is more tech savvy, that is constantly buying things online, they don't need click here.
The button is
look at it and be like, that's weird.
Yeah, it feels antiquated. No, I think that's exactly right. The other thing to consider is that different CTAs work for different parts of your buying cycle. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the, I just got a new subscriber from paid media stage, buy now is really aggressive.
Book a demo. That's my favorite. This is the first, the book a demo gets like pushed so hard by SaaS companies. And it's like, you got to ease into that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like more info or compare products or find a plan that works for you. Think about and again, this isn't just email marketing, like your whole marketing team should be doing testing on this. But making those more info CTAs align with earlier stage nurturers and then Again, I go back to I was just looking at Winnebago stuff. But going back to that example, we didn't ask for find a dealer until the 4th of 4 nurture emails. So the first one is download your brochure, watch video, very informational, very safe clicks, that like very clear expectations. And then the last one is like, you're not going to learn everything about an RV without sitting in one. You're going to find a dealer so that you can drive one of these guys.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, we all have different ratios of how important we think different metrics are when it comes to email marketing. And there are folks, obviously, if an email doesn't get opened, then it doesn't get clicked. But, trying to figure out how much to weigh each of those is something that when I was at Schwab, we spent a lot of time on the B2B side figuring out, how we were going to weight things and then creating a weighted average. So that way we could say which emails performed better based on what it was that we're trying to get people to do with the email. But there's, now, of course, everyone wants every single marketing activity to have a direct line to ROI. So what should folks be looking at as far as the right KPIs to show that their email marketing has been effective?
So, okay. 2 things, because you just hit on one of my little love buttons. Okay. So I think you can measure email in 3 ways. And I think you can measure email's not an alien. It's not its own thing. You can measure your marketing in 3 ways, right? Audience growth, usually list growth of some kind, which isn't entirely email marketing teams' control. We don't always get to decide how much of the website traffic is converted because we didn't maybe build a pop-up on the whatever, right? But audience growth and then engaged audience or engagement from the audience is going to be that big middle juicy section. Yeah, we grew, but how many of them stayed on the list? Yeah, we grew, but how many of them have opened? What is our open rate per email or our openers rate over the course of a month of our list? How many have opened something in the last 30 days, the last 6 months? I will tell you that in the engagement section, we lost a big piece of our truth when iOS started opening stuff without the user saying so. And I think most of our listeners will probably remember this, but when iOS 15 came out, iOS devices were going to pre-open emails as a privacy measure. Yay, we can send really big images now and they'll load fine because they were already loaded on your iPad or your iPhone before you ever even went through your inbox. Boo, because whether that person ever actually read it or not is no longer tracked. And open rate was always kind of a fallacy. Like we were always only ever counting you if you added images or loaded images to your email.
Yep. And Outlook defaulted to not do that. So that meant that you didn't even know that those folks had opened. And frequently with those huge preview panes, if they're on their desktop, people would be clicking from an unopened email.
Correct. And some email platforms would retroactively assign an open to that. So open has always been fuzzy math, fine. But now we really have to rely on the click-through rate, which if only 2% of your audience is clicking on every email, we lost a pretty big tracking metric in open rate, I think. Yeah. So then the third component is, to your point, I need to know what I'm doing to drive the bottom line. That's either a leading indicator, like where to buy an offline product. Delta Faucet doesn't sell Delta Faucets on deltafaucet.com, but they can show you the product, the description, the install instructions, and then that where to buy. That's a purchase for them, right? That's an attributed purchase for them. So those are the 3 categories of metrics. As far as what you would weight things, I actually would take a different approach. I think that for most of our campaigns in email marketing, we love to drive conversions. We love to drive revenue. So if you can get it, do that. Don't stop listening at the end of that sentence. If you don't sell widgets online, or you're B2B, or you have a service, or you have a retainer or whatever, then what email can be measured by might change from campaign to campaign. Like your email department might say, or sometimes between product lines. So when I was at Influence, my email newsletter was just to keep in front of the people who were prospective users and the people who were current users once a month. So for me, I actually did used to use open rate more than click-through rate. I don't care if they read the whole article. They read as many as 3 articles in the body of the email. It's like the New York Times, right? Yeah. They're reading it. They're up to date on it. I don't know that I care that they clicked. Right. So imagine my dismay when open rate becomes kind of a lie and suddenly we all got 45% open rates and we love to show our year over year growth in open rates. Yeah, that's not us, guys. So I would say as close as you can get to a conversion, even if that's, in this case, I want eyeballs. I want people to spend time with my email, or I want the indicator that they're going shopping, which might be the click in the email if you can't get all the way to a high value action tracked in Google Analytics.
Totally. And especially, the thing that people forget is all of that direct traffic that you're seeing in Google Analytics. That direct traffic is actually people who did not click, yes, share my data with this website, or who have all of their privacy settings on their phone defaulted to don't share my information. So and when they're doing that, you're also not going to get clean data showing what that same person was doing across your site. They'll still have the cache for, having that temporary cookie, so that way they can remember what's in the cart as they're shopping. But after they leave the site and they bounce, that's it. We don't have, unless you give people a reason to log in, we don't have the ability to really track some of those things that folks got used to. So I feel like we're ending up in that situation where it's a lot harder to kind of show, if you're not directly selling in your emails, it can be a little bit harder to show that ROI.
And you can also, going back to a B2B example, I have somebody who replies as their metric. Replies and phone rings. When we send the email, the phone rings. Okay, track that.
Yeah.
I will say with UTMs, I know that there's a lot going on right now with Google Analytics and moving into Google Analytics 4. May the odds be in your favor if you're trying to do your transition right now. But I think that UTMs have been our little cheat to get around that, because UTMs give analytics aggregate data. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, I think those are cookie proof. So while we still would lose the next session, tying the next session to that person, obviously, the UTM can actually still give credit back to email. And I actually you talked about what do people still do wrong. I still find when I do an email marketing audit for a new client, I find that they're using UTM_source equals HubSpot marketing or whatever. But then they're not using the UTM medium, and Google Analytics doesn't sniff for anything but medium, and medium equals email with a lowercase e. I know that's stupid, but like the number of people that have not figured out that capital E and lowercase e are different sources.
The conversations I've had about that.
Yeah. Well, it's a bear, right? Like it feels so unfair. Like I'm so close. I did it. I followed the rules, but then capitalized the email. But I think that UTMs, and if you have no idea the letters that are coming out of my mouth, this is all Google Analytics link tracking. So in the link, at the end of the link, you'll add UTM_medium equals email. Mostly your email platform should be helping out and doing this for you. But that will also make sure that your Google Analytics results, at least on an aggregate level, are giving credit to the email channel when email channel is driving a bunch of high value actions or purchases on the site.
Totally. And when I have folks that I know can have a little bit of a challenge with that, and wanting to make sure that we're consistent with how we're labeling things on social media and other places, I will actually help them put together a spreadsheet with pull downs, so that way they're using the things that they've identified. They're not typing things in, and then it auto generates from all of that data the UTMs that they can just copy and paste.
Yeah, I take that.
Again,
let the computers do the hard work.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Like we used to use Google Sheets, would have like a formula, and we just put the formula in and be like, copy paste.
Yeah.
But honestly, I am big into my computer interns. Like the systems and machines can do all of the manual labor for me.
AI can do this for you. You just tell it once how you want things set up, and then it can generate it for you.
Plus, it'll keep you honest. It keeps it consistent because it always follows the same rules that you told it to. Whereas as human, let's be honest, sometimes I change the rules. Let's be honest.
Like we forget which of these things were 2 words versus 1 word, and did we capitalize them or not capitalize them? Oh, yes.
100% accurate.
So we've spent a lot of time, I think, on talking about the best practices of what to do in some of the areas where people fall down. But I always love when we can share some examples of companies that are doing a really amazing job with their email marketing. So I was hoping that you had some that you'd be happy to share with us.
Yeah, well, I now have talked about Winnebago so much. You already know that's one of
So we
my
know that we love them. Okay.
we do love them. And it was one that they gave me a lot of, I got to work on them. So full disclosure, I love my own ideas. But we got to work together with them and they were so open to the idea of using data at every turn. It was just a really fun partnership. And this was back when I was at Barclays. So they're still doing really smart work. And I think that if you take a look at some of what they're doing from a timing perspective or an automation perspective, that's still some of the smartest stuff that I feel like I've gotten to work on, which is just really cool. I also, like I mentioned it earlier, but I think Pinterest is underrated. Like there used to be these darlings in the industry, like Chipotle is doing so great and Amazon is like the standard, and they are, but Pinterest like low key does the most data-driven marketing of anything in my inbox because they're using that same algorithm that social media would use to show you a feed and bringing that into email. Like I try to think for my clients, how stretched towards that super duper data driven goal can I be? How much closer to that data ideal can I be where I'm not just using first name in the subject line, I'm using the search phrase they most recently used in the subject line. I'm taking 3 of their most recent pin lookalikes into the same body of the email. That's a type of data customization or content customization that I just don't know that a lot of brands strive for. And I think they do a great job with it. The other one so here's the other truth is I like anybody who just sends me really smart stuff. So great email marketing to me is it doesn't come so often that I get annoyed. And like a B2B newsletter, like Orbit Media, my pals over at Orbit Media send a couple of emails a month. And then it's got a couple of events that you could attend. It's low key. They give away the information for free. So there's no like, you have to log in or give me your email address. You're already in, you're on their list. So all of that content is just really good quality content. So there's something to be said for there's no bells and whistles. It's just really good content delivering on the promise that you signed up for.
Totally. And your conversation, your things that you mentioned about Pinterest, of course, made me think of the emails I get from Etsy because it is so cool because it'll show me things similar to things I've purchased previously, or it'll send me some, it'll be trending and they'll show me, things that are, again, those like lookalikes to things that I've purchased, but they'll also look at things I favorited and not purchased. And they'll tell me, hey, this is on sale right now. You might want to get it. Or that thing that was sold out is available again. And so, I get the occasional email and the little nudge and it's like, oh, where you bought all that great stuff? They have new things that look very similar. And I always click through. I always click through on my Etsy emails. And I can't say that about anyone else that I always click through.
No, that's a really good example. And actually, so I also have had the chance to work on At Home, a big like retail store about all of the things you can put in your house. I am a to decor in a room type of person. So like At Home has personas. That is not the Jessica persona, but they are incredible with their data. And they use something called Certona that does a lot of this stuff behind the scenes. The AI does a lot of this stuff behind the scenes for them. But you just gave like 3 of their top performing use cases, right? What's new that looks like what you've bought before? This thing went on sale that you ever browsed or favorited or had in your cart but didn't buy. Or something that you were watching that was sold out is now back in stock. Back in stock was like, phew, love that, right? Think about this too. Again, we're talking a lot about B2C examples or retail examples. Think about annually purchased items. So if you're in the business side and you had somebody place an order in November for all of 2022, when are you going to pick up the phone and talk to them? And if you can't get them on the phone in November of 2023, when should nurture emails kick in and start to pick up the slack? They haven't ordered in 12 and a half months, 13 months, 13 and a half months. Those are the things that can support a sales process, but through marketing and email automation.
And I feel like that's where AI comes in, is you can use AI to look at your data in aggregate and give you some of those, potential use cases. Do you have any other kind of like favorite ways that you think marketers should be using AI to really up their email marketing game and create these opportunities?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it before, but probably my biggest one, if you have more than one product or service, the next best product recommendation is something that we've been using for years that is technically AI, and people just don't think of it. Like massive amounts of data go into this, which is pot. and we're not even asking it, we're not asking it what was the most popular product. I could find that in Excel. We're basically saying, tell me what trends you see. That is AI. Now we're asking it something. I can't even formulate the question that's smart enough to get an answer. I want you to tell me what the correlations or the trends you see are so that I can make smarter plans and ask smarter questions and smarter follow-up questions.
Yeah.
That next best product recommendation, or like what's the cadence of follow-up purchase, those are the types of things that start to get down a path where it's like, all right, computer, you tell me what's smart. I don't know.
Exactly. Because I mean, we can't read a million different records and come away with insights.
That's it.
But, the AI tools will 100% be able to do that and help you then kind of winnow down what your use cases are going to be. And that's the whole using AI as a thought partner, not just a content creator.
Yeah, as a brief, like you're using, hey, intern. I like to call AI my intern, right? Hey, intern, go Google what the most impactful correlation is to when somebody buys a throw pillow, or how early are holiday sales starting this year. I mean, ask it something that like you would have to spend hours. And then you get the brief, right? Like let it write you. And I have to give Andy a shout out too, because he just posted a video on AI doing basically a gap analysis of here's my persona, and on my website, here's my persona and what their whys are, why they buy and what they need. Now go analyze every page of my website and tell me if I'm doing all 5 of these reasons to buy in a consistent way across the site.
That's amazing. Andy is brilliant. We love Andy.
I love Andy, but like he was even excited. Like he doesn't maybe get like level 10 excited about everything. He was so excited to share this with me because he was basically like, this is the thing. Like we figured out how to make AI work for us instead of being like, oh my God, AI is going to take my job. No, it's not, honey. Like it still needs to be asked the question. As of right now, it still needs to be asked the question. And we are even letting it formulate the question for us in some cases, but we need it to be briefing us in order to create the campaign. Right now, you might get an okay draft or an okay correction from it, but coming up with a net new idea based on what it found is purely human, right? Like as long as we are the people coming to the table with something that we haven't tried before because we understand the human connection behind the data, then we're still going to have jobs.
Totally agreed. Well, we have a few minutes left, so I do want to open up the ability for folks to do some Q&A with us. So if you have any burning email marketing questions for Jessica or myself, please type them into the chat, and we will try to give our best answer. And while we wait for that, I'm going to give you just a random question, which is, how early is too early to start marketing through email for Halloween? Seeing people on social media mad about seeing Halloween stuff in the stores.
Yeah. So I have a personal opinion about that does not matter because if the data says that we can move it in August, then August isn't too early. There are just as many people saying, listen, it's 115 in Kansas City today. You bring me that pumpkin spice latte. I have earned it. I am ready. So if the data says it's there, because At Home used to get absolutely badgered for putting all of their holiday stuff on sale in September. Do you know why they do that?
Because people buy it.
People buy it in September.
And you want to be early because people have a specific budget set aside and they want to get all of their stuff planned and ready. So
and when inspiration strikes, that's when they buy. I mean, that's exactly right. It's a matter of almost inventory at that point. If you don't have it out, you can't win that sale. And if people aren't ready for it, then they just go to the next aisle over and do back to school or pool supplies or something. It's completely market driven, in my opinion. I have a personal opinion about that, but it does not matter because I am not the only target audience on the planet. So
that's right. And you never know. Every place has different norms. So we can't, again, marketers, we cannot use ourselves as our target audience because we frequently are not exactly that person.
We are not. So
Um,
my first job out of all of my crazy marketing jobs, like my journey in marketing started, I graduated with a degree in journalism and advertising. And so my first job out of school was selling radio ads for a top 40 radio station here in Kansas City. And one of our partner stations was the Holiday Station. They were sort of the soft rock for 9/12 of the year. And every year they got a little earlier with starting Christmas music. And people were like, this is insane. Let Halloween have its day. Like, you are stealing holidays you're stealing the limelight from other holidays. And honestly, it was market driven. I cannot blame somebody for being entirely data driven on that front.
so funny. Let's see. Folks are being shy, and or they might be posting on Twitter. And side note, anybody trying to reach me on Twitter, you're going to want to use @EricaHeald because my personal account is now private. That's all we're going to say about Twitter.
Yeah, that's basically it. So I will say, I just want to reiterate, I feel like I should never even mention buying lists on a video chat, except for that it was part of the whole story. I am just wildly certain. Like, if there used to be somebody who paid for the domain, should I buy an emaillist.com? And the only thing they put on that domain was the word no. And it was a joke in the industry, but I get it. It's so easy, especially B2B, guys. It's so easy to go, but my only market is the 900 accounting firms in the Kansas City tri-state area. That's my market. Great. Let's talk about direct mail or paid media or a lot of these other channels that don't have the same rules. When you send from your email account, first of all, your terms and conditions with your email platform probably don't even allow this. But if you send from your email account to a huge list of people that aren't expecting from you, it takes 0.1% of your audience to complain that you're spam. And all the people that even were on your house list will not get your email for a week and a half. It's just such sturdy industry reaction. You get so much blowback for not very much gain. Buying the list is not worth it. So if you want to grow your list quickly, we can have a whole separate hour-long chat about this. But if you want to grow your list quickly, invest in things like a referral email campaign with a big register to win carrot on the other side. Paid media. That's how you get eyeballs now. How do you get people to your website? Paid media.
Yeah.
It's not new. Just make sure that you're capturing a lot of the people who are coming to your site. Get their email addresses, because as we lose a lot of that permission for retargeting or tracking without explicit cookie permission, we're giving people the option to opt in and engage with future content from us.
And I'd say my final note would be, make sure that you do make it really easy for people to unsubscribe.
Oh, absolutely.
I say that because I've certainly seen where I've been signed up to an email list that I did not sign up for myself, and I've gone and tried to unsubscribe, and they've made it pretty darn impossible. So then I go back to my inbox and I mark it as spam.
Yep.
And you can tell frequently when folks have some of these issues, because that's why you'll sometimes have emails that you have opted into that are in your spam folder. And it's because there's just too many other people have been reporting what they're doing as spam. So
yep. The user is king in email marketing. And they are really in social media too. If you're not interesting enough, you don't get curated into their feed. A lot of that's a lot more algorithmic based. This is pretty straightforward. If they don't like you, they can shut you down. And it's not just they can unsubscribe, they can get you shut down. It's just an interesting industry, right? So we play by the user's rules.
Totally. All right. So if folks want to learn more about email marketing or chat with you further, where should they be looking for you?
I'm going to go ahead and admit that if you chat with me on Twitter, I might not see it anymore. Twitter and I are on a break. But if you find me on LinkedIn, Jessica Best on LinkedIn, and obviously as part of this conversation, this whole conversation will be archived on LinkedIn. Find me there. I love to connect with people. I love helping answer questions there. I did see one question come through chat, and I will reply to you, Michelle, in Twitter. I see it. I promise. I'm looking right now. But come and find me in LinkedIn, or you can send me an email. I'm jess@better-av.com. And let's get geeky.
Thank you so much for the super fun, nerdy conversation about all things email related. I had a blast. And I think that you probably really helped a bunch of folks think about what they can be doing to make their email marketing do its job as that one-to-one communication tool that it's really meant to be. So thank you so much.
Go forth, use data, my friends. Thanks for
Bye,
having
everybody.
me. Bye.